Hey guys, okay, we are starting into Unit 7 now. So in the folder I have put the notes in there and then the supplemental sheet. So you'll need to print both of those out. As a reminder, always, if you do not have printing capabilities, then you are more than welcome to email me and I will leave them at the print desk at West for you to come and pick them up. Okay, so this first section of Unit 7 is kind of a review section over a Pythagorean theorem for the most part. So, right triangles. Remember, right triangle is a triangle with one right angle. Can't have more because we only have 180 degrees in a triangle. So the hypotenuse is always the side across from the right angle. The other two sides are your legs. One we call A and one we call B. They are interchangeable, so it doesn't matter which is which. Okay? Your hypotenuse will always be your longest side. So on Pythagorean theorem, the theorem states that a squared plus b squared will equal that hypotenuse squared, c squared, okay? Something that's new is something called a Pythagorean triple. These are Pythagorean triples. They are very common whole number numbers. That's the three numbers that work as Pythagorean theorem. So like this would be my a, this would be my b, and this would be my c. In Pythagorean triples, whichever number is your largest is always your c value, your hypotenuse. The other two are your a and your b. The reason to know these, and I would memorize a 3, 4, 5 and a 5, 12, 13. You can memorize all of them, and that would be great. But the reason to know these is a lot of times on like the ACT or standardized tests, when we are in the geometry section, they will use Pythagorean triples as their side lengths. So if you already know the Pythagorean triple, you're going to be saving yourself time on the ACT, and you won't have to do the math involved. So if I gave you a triangle and I said, okay, it's a right triangle, two of the sides are 3 and 4, what's the third one? Instead of having to take the time to do Pythagorean theorem to find that the third side length is 5, you should already know that it's 5. But then also Pythagorean triple multiples of these. So a 6, 8, 10 is also our 3 side lengths that work to make a right triangle. So anything you multiply these by will still work. So if I multiply this by 5, so 15, 20, 25, that would work. If I multiply this by 5, a 25, 60, 65 would also work, okay? So multiples of these. So these 4 and then multiples of them. Number 1, number 2, and number 3, you're just finding the length of the hypotenuse. So you can do 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared and solve for that. So that's 36 plus 64. C squared, so that's 100 equals c squared. To get c squared down to c, I square root it. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other, so c is 10. So this is 10. Or I could have seen it's 6, 8, what? Well, that's a multiple of the 3, 4. It's just a multiple of times 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8, 5 times 2 is 10. Okay. Next one, 4 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. So that is 16 plus 36. 16 plus 36 is 52 equals x squared. Now, as a reminder, last mini unit, we learned how to reduce these. So they may ask for a decimal answer or they may ask you to reduce it. That one reduces, I think 4 goes into 52. Let's see. Yeah, so this is actually reduces to 2 square roots of 13 because it breaks down to 13 times 4. Square root of 4 is 2. If I wanted to take the square root of that and go to the nearest hundredth, that would be 7.21. Next one, same thing. We have to find c, so 12 squared plus 16 squared equals x squared. Well, if you look, this is a 3, 4, 5 multiplied by 4, because 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16, so I multiply that 5 by 4, and I get x equals 20. Again, saves you time if you can see that. Find the unknown side length. Determine if the side is a leg or hypotenuse. Write in simplest radical form. So they want simplest radical form. So the missing side length on this one is a leg. So we're going to do 12 squared plus x squared equals 13 squared. If you notice, that is a triple. That's a 5, 12, 13. So x is actually 5. This one's 5 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared because this is your hypotenuse, so I'm going to label that. That's 25 plus 36 equals x squared. That is 51. No, sorry, 61 equals x squared. If I take the square root, I think 61 may be prime. Pretty sure it's prime. So that is actually your reduced radical form. This one would be, this is a leg that I'm solving for. Square root of 7 squared is just 7 plus x squared. Square root of 19 squared is just 19, right? So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides, so I get 12 squared equals 12, or x squared equals 12, sorry. Square root of that, break it down, 4 times 3, 2 times 2 times 3. I have a pair of 2, so 2 comes out, square roots of 3. And that is your final answer. All right, find the area of the isosceles triangle. So in order to find the area, you have to know the area equation. Area equation is base times height divided by 2. So we have the base. The base is 10. The base and the height that they're talking about in that equation have to come together to form a 90-degree angle. So you got to make sure on that. But what we don't have is the height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this side, and I am going to figure out the height by doing a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Or, if you can see that there's a Pythagorean triple there, that's a 5, 12, 13. So your height here is actually 12. So now I'm going to do my base, which is 10, all the way across, times my height, which is 12, and then divide that by 2. 10 times 12 is 120. Divide by 2 is 60 meters squared. This one gives me the base, but it's all the way across is 30, so I'm going to make that halfway across 15 so I can find this side, which is a leg. So I'm going to do 15 squared plus x squared equals 18 squared. Okay, 15 squared is 225. 18 squared is 324. If I subtract those, I get x squared equals 99. So if I take the square root, that breaks down to 9 times 11. Square root of 9 is 3, so it's 3 square roots of 11. So your height here is 3 square roots of 11. Your base is 30, and you're going to divide that by 2. Okay? So I'm going to do, and really I can just take it of that. So 15 times 3 is 45 square roots of 11, and that is feet squared. Or if they wanted a decimal, you could turn that into a decimal pretty easily, right? Okay, next one. So halfway across would be 10. So it's 10 squared plus x squared equals 26 squared. This is another Pythagorean triple. It is a multiple of the 5, 12, 13. So it's 5 times 2, this times 2, 13 times 2. So 5, 12, so this would be 12 times 2, so x would be 24. And you could do Pythagorean theorem and get the same answer. So now my base is 20 times my height is 24 divided by 2. That's the same thing as doing 10 times 24, which is 240 meters squared. Okay, next one. Find the area of the figure around the decimals to the nearest tenth. So on this one, they're wanting you to have decimals. So this is a leg. So it's 7 squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. That's 100. This is 49. Okay, so then I'm going to subtract the 49 from both sides. So I get x squared equals 51. Square root that, and the directions tell me to round the decimals to the nearest tenth. So square root of 51, that's 7.1. But we also have to find the area. So remember, area is length times width divided by 2, but it has to be the 90-degree angle that you're doing the length and width. So it would be this guy times this guy. So 7.1 times 7, and then that whole thing divided by 2. So 7.1 times 7, divide that by 2, and I get 24.85 feet squared. Okay. Next one, so if that's 4, that means this is 4, so the whole distance is 8 for the length. The width would be this guy, or this is base and height, right? So this is a 4 squared plus x squared equals 12 squared. triangle. So that's 16 and 144. So I'm going to take 144. I'm going to subtract off 16, and then I'm going to square root that. And I get x equals 11.3 rounded to the nearest decimal, or tenth, sorry. So now I need to do the length. The whole way across is 8 times 11.3. Divide that whole thing by 2. That's the same thing as multiplying this by 4. So I get 45.2 centimeters squared. Okay, so there will be a Schoology homework assignment in here, and then I also want you to do the first page, we'll call this page 1, the first page of your supplemental packet. It says the Pythagorean theorem. It has number 1. So go ahead and do this. There will be a small assignment in there for you to put some of your answers in for. All right, thanks, guys.